Return home to your own country and go directly to jail for the privilege? That is what is reportedly being discussed by the high-tax legacy brand country of Australia, who is considering not even allowing its own citizens to come back into the country. They've already had regulations on this for some time. Now they're looking to potentially fine and even jail people who dare come back to their home. I'm going to give you the details right now. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. I'm the author of this soon-to-be-banned in Australia book. Get your copy now. And I'm the founder of Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. That means leaving countries like Australia and going to places that offer lower taxes, better value, and more freedom. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. I don't mean to pick on Australia, but they're kind of asking for it, because here's the headline from the Sydney Morning Herald. Australians may be fined or jailed for entering the country from India. This is an article by Latika Burke. And the article says that the federal government is considering fining and jailing anyone who tries to enter Australia from India amid that country's COVID-19 crisis. Australia's borders have been closed since March of last year, as we're all well aware. And this week, the government clamped down even further, banning all flights, including repatriation dashes from India. So basically, you're an Australian, you went to India, you could be working in India, you could be on a holiday, you could be whatever the purpose, you're in India. COVID cases have been flaring up in India. It's been in the news, some of the biggest cases in the world right now. So you go to India, now you're stuck, you want to come home. The article continues. There are 36,000 Australians who are stuck abroad, who are trying to get back to Australia, but cannot because of the strict quarantine limits on how many people can enter the country per week. At least 9,000 of those, basically 1 in 4, are in India, and more than 600 of those in India are classified as vulnerable. Now, here's the kicker. 9 News in Australia reported that the government was considering a further step by making it a crime, a criminal action, punishable by up to a $66,000 fine, I believe this is Australian dollars, or up to 5 years jail if they travel home from India. Now, here's what I've been saying for the last year, and really here's what I've been saying from day one of Nomad Capitalist for almost a decade now. Your country doesn't care about you, and we've shown many examples that prove why that's the case. Okay. They're now saying, they're basically devaluing the thing that for so long they've told you should be proud of, you should hold dear, you should fight to the death for, you should join their military for, you should pay taxes for. That is your citizenship. It's your identity. Whether you were born in Australia, you're a natural-born Australian, or whether you moved to Australia and naturalized, you've been paying a lot of money in taxes. You've been contributing to the country. You've been helping the country. And what happens when it comes time to help you? What happens when you've got that document that so many people from Australia, I've known so many Australians, are so proud to have it, so as are Americans, British, whomever else about their passports. So many Westerners proud to have that passport. I can go anywhere in the world. I have all the freedoms in the world, I have all the privileges. I can do whatever I want. And you get that most prestigious of pieces of paper called a passport, and you can't really travel to a lot of places in the world, let alone back to your own country. Your government has lied to you. This is not a conspiracy channel, but here it is in one of the most respected newspapers in all of Australia saying that the government wants to fine and even imprison people who dare come back to their own country. For the last year, since the country closed their borders, they've been restricting people to come back. So you're an Australian, you're really not an Australian. You do not have the ability to come to your country at any time. By the way, how often do these countries invoke the United Nations whenever they want to push their agenda in some way? Now, we know Australia likes to kind of push that aside when they're, ripping off all their neighbor nations for things like oil. That's the thing that no one wants to talk about. But they love to talk about the United Nations when it comes to how they can get more things done in their favor. What does the United Nations say? People should be free to leave and return to their country whenever they want. Not wait in a line like a bread line or a 1970s gas station line to wait their turn to come back to their country. People should be able to go back to their country. That's the privilege that you earned when you were born in the country and became a citizen, or naturalized in the country and became a citizen. But now, in Western legacy brand countries, I never thought this would happen quite this harshly. Your citizenship means absolutely nothing. You're not even welcome in your own country. They do not care if you sit in another country and die. If you're one of the 600 vulnerable people, they don't care. Not only are they not going to send a flight to get you. That's a common mistake and a common myth people think. When I gave up U.S. citizenship, the myth was that people told me, what are you going to do when you're trapped in one of these hellholes and you're not going to have the U.S. government to send you a plane to get you out? I said, as if the U.S. embassy even answers a phone call, let alone sends a plane. During this pandemic, a few European countries did send planes for their citizens. We can discuss whether that's an efficient use of tax dollars or not. I would argue if you're one of the successful people who've paid millions of dollars in taxes, maybe you had to get something back for those tax dollars. But okay, most countries have said you're on your own. That's one thing. Then to say, hey, there's restrictions, there's quarantines. Okay, we can have a discussion on that. They're literally even saying now you cannot come back to your country. If it means you stay somewhere else and die, it's not our problem. If you get deported from some other country, not our problem. Nothing is their problem. Except that was the entire bargain that they made with you when you were giving them 50 cents on the dollar of your income was, hey, listen, you're going to pay us a lot, but don't worry, we're going to take care of you. We're all in this together. How often do you hear that? We're all in this together. We're Australians, we're Americans, we're South Africans. We're here together. The government's here to help. Except they're not. They never were. It was always a scam just designed to get your money. And you've been living in these countries, whether it's Australia or any other high-tax legacy brand country, paying all your money, hoping one day the benefits would come to you. If you're a successful person, if you're the person watching this channel, you probably don't get all the benefits that a lot of people get in your country. You pay and pay and pay. You don't want the benefits. You're too busy being productive. But the one time you need a benefit, hey, you know what? I have this passport because I was born in your country. I'd like to come back. Get in the line. We'll let you know when you can come into your own country. We'll let you know when you can come to your home. By the way, please keep paying your property taxes. Please keep paying your taxes. Please keep paying everything that keeps our country going so we can continue not serving you. And then you look at all the politicians. You look at, like in California with Gavin Newsom, eating at $1,000 plates dinners at the French Laundry with lobbyists wearing no mask. Well, he's telling you to sit at home and pay your taxes and just shut up. It happens with politicians all over the world. So while they're out living it up, you're footing the bill and you can't even come back into your own country after years of paying for this amazing privilege that hopefully now people realize isn't much of a privilege. I left the U.S. People think that's for taxes. Really, taxes played a very minimal role in my decision. But I realized that going forward, countries like the United States and Australia, we're going to do more stuff like this. They're going to be more restrictive. They're going to take away more of your freedoms. They're going to make it more difficult to live overseas. And I think we've set a boundary right now where a number of Western countries, at least the more isolated ones, such as the U.S. and Australia, are increasingly unfriendly and even hostile to anyone who dares live outside of their own country. That was the reason I pushed back on America First in the U.S., where I saw specific measures that were going to say, if you live outside of the U.S., we're going to make your life more difficult because we want people to come back and live in our great country. Australia's doing the same thing. I'm not saying it's been peachy to live in Australia over the last year, but yes, I would have rather lived overseas, but I'd also like to have the ability that if I want to come back to my country, I can. And so to add insult to injury, you're stuck in a country where you may not want to be. You may have an issue, whether it's a health issue, an immigration issue, whatever, you need to come back. Not only can you not come back, oh no, we're going to punish you with up to 5 years jail. It's literally spitting in the wound. It's pouring salt and rubbing it in and pouring it and getting it all in there. Get that salt in the wound. 5 years in jail, $66,000 fine. I wonder how many of those 9,000 people in India who are Australians even make $66,000 in a year. Not everyone's a 7 or 8 figure entrepreneur investor. I'd be annoyed to pay it, but at least I could pay it. I wonder how many can. I wonder how many will stay in India in fear because their country has abandoned them in the worst way possible. And yet, what do we hear from Australia? We need a wealth tax. You hear some of the fringe candidates saying we need a citizenship-based taxation where no matter where you live, if you're the guy stuck in India, you're still going to pay us taxes. Maybe, depending on their circumstances, the only hope for some of these people is maybe some of them can claim some tax benefits. Probably not, given Australia's tax non-residence procedures. But perhaps at least if they were out of Australia and now we're looking to move back, at least they can maybe extend their tax benefits and not be paying to be insulted. But what happens when Australia imposes new kinds of taxes? What happens when they start taxing citizens, which may or may not happen, but it's at least been discussed by a few people who may have more and more powerful voices as years goes on, and people start to turn against the rich fat cats who dare leave our great country to go overseas, to go and live in India. Well, how would you feel then when you're paying to literally not get any services? And perhaps the most upsetting thing about all this is I was reading through some of the comments online. there were a lot of people, including some people who seem like rather libertarian, some cryptocurrency people, for example, who said, they knew the rules, they shouldn't have left. What? You're not allowed to come back you're not allowed to leave for 2 years and then decide to come back? Oh, not during a pandemic? Oh, well then what next not during? Not during what else? You know, this reminds me, and some of you won't like me saying this reminds me back in the early 2000s in the US when people said, you're not allowed to criticize President Bush. It's an act of treason to criticize a sitting president during a time of war. What, did you just pull that rule out of your tuchus? Where do they come up with these rules? Oh, you can't come back during a pandemic. Next it'll be they'll pull something else out. Oh, but Andrew, a pandemic's very serious. Yes, but once they find one reason to not let you in, there'll be another, and another, and another, and another. Quite frankly, I don't know why you're paying for this citizenship. I'm only glad I'm not paying for it, but I certainly wouldn't want to go back to a country and give them 50 cents on the dollar so I could be disregarded and discarded at my most vulnerable moment. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.